Imagine a night so cold that the air itself seems frozen. The world around you is silent, blanketed in thick, heavy snow. Each step you take crunches underfoot, and the sound is swallowed by the endless white around you. The wind whistles through the trees, sharp as a blade. Your breath forms clouds in front of you, but those clouds are quickly swept away by the cold, biting wind. In Japan, such nights are feared not only for their freezing temperatures, but for something far worse that walks among the snowdrifts. Something so beautiful it stops the heart, and then takes it. This is the night when Yuki-onna, the snow woman, walks among us. Her skin is as white as the snow itself. Her long black hair billows in the wind like a silk banner. She wears a white kimono that flows like water around her feet, but those feet never seem to touch the ground. Yuki-onna moves with the grace of a ghost, silently gliding through the blizzard as if she is part of the snow itself. Her beauty is mesmerizing, but it's a beauty as cold and distant as the winter sky. Her eyes are dark, deep, and piercing. They seem to see right through you. Yuki-onna does not speak when she first appears. She simply watches, her cold gaze fixed upon you, as if deciding your fate. Legend says that Yuki-onna's breath is death itself. She doesn't need to touch you to kill you. One icy breath from her lips is enough to freeze the life out of anyone who crosses her path. The snow that falls around her becomes heavier, colder, suffocating the air itself. And if you see her, it may already be too late. Yuki-onna is not a mere ghost. She is the embodiment of winter, beautiful but unforgiving. For centuries, her story has been passed down from generation to generation, and each version of her legend is as chilling as the last. In many small villages nestled in the snowy mountains of Japan, Yuki-onna is both feared and respected. She is a symbol of nature's beauty, but also its deadly power. Winter in these villages is harsh, and the snow that blankets the land brings both life and death. The farmers depend on the snowmelt in spring, but the long, cold months of winter are a time of isolation, hunger, and fear. Around the fire, families whisper stories of Yuki-onna to their children, warning them not to wander into the woods at night, especially when the snow falls thick. They say that she lures travelers into the wilderness, only to leave them frozen in the snow, their bodies found days later, covered in frost, their faces locked in eternal terror. One of the most famous tales of Yuki-onna tells of two woodcutters, a master and his apprentice, caught in a fierce snowstorm. The snow fell so heavily that the men could barely see. They lost their way in the woods, wandering blindly as the storm grew worse. Exhausted and desperate, they found a small, abandoned hut and took shelter for the night. As they huddled together for warmth, the wind howled outside, shaking the walls of the fragile hut. The younger man fell asleep, but the master stayed awake, troubled by the storm's intensity. Suddenly, the door creaked open. Standing in the doorway was a woman, tall, with skin as white as snow and hair as dark as night. She moved silently, her white kimono trailing behind her, as if she floated through the air. Her beauty was breathtaking, but there was something unnaturally cold about her presence. The woman stepped closer, her eyes fixed on the younger man. Without a word, she leaned over him and breathed gently onto his face. In an instant, his body stiffened, his skin turned pale, and his breath stopped. He was frozen to death, his body locked in a posture of sleep. his face peaceful but lifeless. The older woodcutter was paralyzed with fear, unable to move or speak. Yuki-onna turned her gaze toward him, her cold eyes boring into his soul. But instead of freezing him, she spoke. "I will spare your life," she said, her voice as soft and cold as the snow outside. "But on one condition. Tell no one of what you have seen tonight." With that, Yuki-onna disappeared into the storm, leaving the woodcutter alone with the frozen body of his apprentice. When the storm passed the next morning, the woodcutter returned to the village, but he never spoke of what had happened that night. He kept the secret for years, haunted by the memory of Yuki-onna's cold, piercing eyes. Years passed, and the woodcutter lived a quiet life. He eventually married and started a family. But as he grew older, the weight of his secret became too much to bear. One winter's night, as he sat by the fire with his wife, he could no longer keep silent. He told her the story of that night in the snowstorm, of how Yuki-onna had spared his life but taken the life of his apprentice. As he spoke, his wife listened quietly, her face growing paler with every word. When he finished, she turned to him, her eyes wide with fear. "It was I," she whispered. "I am the Snow Woman." In that moment, the woodcutter realized that his wife was Yuki-onna herself. She had lived among humans for years, hiding her true identity. True to her word, she had spared his life. But now that he had broken his promise, she could stay no longer. With tears in her eyes, Yuki-onna disappeared into the night, leaving the woodcutter to live the rest of his life alone, haunted by the memory of the woman he had loved. This is the tragedy of Yuki-onna. She is not just a cold-hearted killer, but a spirit trapped between two worlds. She walks the line between life and death, beauty and destruction. And though she brings death to those who cross her path, there is a deep sadness in her story. She is a figure of loneliness and longing, forever wandering the snowy mountains in search of warmth, yet doomed to bring only cold and death. Her story is a reflection of Japan's relationship with nature, especially in the harsh, remote regions where winters are long and brutal. The people who live in these regions have always respected the power of the natural world, knowing that life and death can be separated by the thinnest of margins during the coldest months. Yuki-onna's legend has been passed down for centuries, evolving with each generation. In some stories, she is portrayed as a vengeful spirit who seeks out victims without mercy. In others, she is a tragic figure, a spirit who cannot escape her own loneliness and sorrow. But in all versions, she is a reminder of the fragility of life in the face of nature's unrelenting power. Not all encounters with Yuki-onna end in death. In some stories, she spares those who show kindness or humility. There are tales of travelers who offer her warmth or speak to her with compassion, and in return, she lets them live. But for every act of mercy, there are countless more stories of Yuki-onna's victims, frozen where they stand, their bodies found days later, encased in ice. These stories serve as a warning, a reminder that nature is both beautiful and dangerous, and that survival depends on understanding and respecting its power. Yuki-onna is the personification of winter's beauty and danger, a force that can be as mesmerizing as it is deadly. For those who wander the snowy mountains of Japan, Yuki-onna remains a real threat. Travelers are often told to be cautious, to keep an eye on the weather, and to never wander off the path. But no matter how prepared you are, if Yuki-onna chooses to appear, there may be no escape. The legend of Yuki-onna is more than just a ghost story. It is a reflection of Japan's deep connection to the natural world. In the mountains, where winters are long and harsh, survival depends on understanding and respecting the forces of nature. Yuki-onna is the embodiment of winter's beauty and its danger, a reminder that the natural world can be both breathtaking and deadly. And on nights like this, when the snow falls heavy and the wind howls through the trees, you might just feel a chill that runs deeper than the cold. If you do, be careful, for Yuki-onna may be watching you from the shadows, waiting for the moment to make her presence known. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the legend of Yuki-onna. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to the Mythical Vault for more haunting stories from Japan's supernatural world. Next time, we'll explore another chilling tale from the depths of Japanese folklore. Until then, be careful when walking in the snow, for you never know when Yuki-onna might be near.